So Ninjutso released their second mouse, and this is called the Katana, and this is basically an Intellimouse Optical 1.1 clone, or it's heavily inspired by it. I myself do not have the Intellimouse Optical 1.1 here anymore, but I used to main it for a long time, especially when I was one of the best players in the world in Call of Duty 1 and Call of Duty 4. Having used it for such a long time, the Katana does feel very familiar for me. The one thing about the shape is that the sides on the shape are sort of curved the wrong way vertically, so it's wider from the bottom than it is from the top. Usually it's the other way around, so the sides are sort of curved this way, and that makes it easier to lift the mouse. So back in the day, many people used to have the issue that they could not lift the Intellimouse Optical 1.1 shape so easily, especially if the coding was bad. But the coding here in the Katana feels good and grippy, so it's very easy for me to lift the mouse.
People have been asking me questions like, what does the mouse shape remind you of? And the fact is that it doesn't really remind me of anything else than the Zowie AM that used to exist many years ago, and the Intellimouse Optical 1.1 that used to exist even longer time ago. It can kind of look like an S2 or an XM1, but I can assure you that it's nothing like those two. The hump is way less pronounced as it's more towards the middle of the mouse, and it does not fill the bottom of your palm like the XM1 does. And that same thing applies to the S2, and of course these both are very different from the front compared to the Katana. Those sides being curved inward to the top of the mouse is just quite unique, and it's not really seen anywhere else but those mice that are inspired by the Intellimouse Optical 1.1. Because of those sides, if you've never tried an Intellimouse Optical 1.1, this shape will most likely feel very weird for you at the start. Overall, I really do like the shape, and it's one of the only mice that I've ever tried where I can modify my grip in-game during a different kind of situations, and it doesn't affect my in-game performance negatively but positively actually. For example, sometimes when I can predict that I'm getting into a situation where I need tracking aim, I might change my grip style a little bit, and when I know that I need my flick shots to hit, I might change it to another way. Usually with other shapes I only move my thumb, but with this shape I can move my ring finger and my pinky as well. This is because the mouse does not flare out to the front that much, so it's pretty much just as wide from the middle as it is from the front. And even more so because the sides are slanted and the mouse is wider towards the bottom, so there is a lot of room on the sides of the mouse, and also the back curvature is kind of subtle, and so is the hump. It's also one of the only mice where I just can land my hand on it, and whatever the claw grip style I have, I can just perform very well with it in game. The shape is good for palm, claw and fingertip grip, but I would not recommend anyone to palm this who has large hands. Then again, if you do have medium to small hands, you can also palm grip the mouse, but I do recommend for you to claw or fingertip grip this shape. I don't usually enjoy fingertip grip that much or find it natural for me, but for example with the Origin version 2, the MC1 and this one, it feels good. But overall I do not recommend this shape for most people, as I think that it's a drastic change for many of you. For example, if you enjoy the XM1, the Zowie S2 or any kind of standard claw grip mouse these days, you most likely do not like the Intellimouse Optical 1.1 shape or the Katana. For me myself, this shape is far more natural to flick kind of aim rather than tracking. I did have some struggles playing with Apex with this mouse, and I did not even use it for that long because of the few flaws that I mentioned in this review.
The Katana has this one very small but at the same time very major difference to the Intellimouse Optical 1.1 though, and it's the sharp edge right here on the mouse. Many mice have this, but usually this corner is rounded and it's not quite as aggressive as on this one. This makes the feeling quite horrible because when I grip the mouse my thumb is touching this sharp edge, and so is my pinky and my ring finger here. To me, this overall feels like a very bad design flaw. I myself have no clue how this went through all the pre-production testings on this design. There is another major issue on the mouse, and that's the click latency.
Well, maybe calling this a major issue is a bit of an overkill, as not all of us play click timing heavy games, so do keep that in mind.
The mouse has drivers and the drivers have the debound setting option, but the slider does not work at this point.
Basically, I get the same exact comparative results against the Superlight with 20 millisecond option and the 1 millisecond option. But the positive news here at least is that they have those drivers, so this issue can be fixed.
The main mouse buttons are actually pretty nice on my unit. The left click is very snappy and tactile and it's easy to actuate. but the right click has a little bit too much pre and post shuffle to my liking.
Although the clicks feel actually quite nice in normal use, and I would say that my left click is actually really nice, in games they are not good at all because it's really hard to tap fire or spam click with these buttons. After the tactile feedback of the switch, there is some mushiness on the buttons, and that makes the rebound of the button kind of slow and lazy feeling. I've never had this issue with any mouse that has the LethalGamingGear 8.0s before, so either it's just an issue with my unit or there is a problem with the design.
The side buttons then again feel very cheap. There is an insane amount of post shuffle on both of the buttons. They are tactile and clicky once you actuate the switch, but the post shuffle kind of ruins the complete feeling here. But hey, the scroll wheel at least feels like a high quality scroll wheel.
For the sensor, the Katana has the 3389 from Pixar, and there are no issues with the performance, and the lift-off distance is under 1 DVD. And there is really nothing else to say, most sensors on wired mice perform great these days. The build quality is pretty much top-notch, there are no issues with creaking, flex or rattle, and there is pretty much no button wobble either. But at the same time, the Katana does not feel that premium because of the coding and the buttons. The mouse feels quite lightweight, on my scale it's about 60 grams, but because the cable is not the best and it does not have an upward angle on the stress relief, it can sort of feels like it makes the mouse feel heavier. Weight balancing itself is well done and it seems to be quite centered in the middle. I do not have any issues with this. The feet on the Katana are pure PTFE and they seem to be pretty much the same size and shape as the Zowie mice. The glide is very good for all kinds of mouse pad. For example, rough pads feel smooth and fast, and then again control pads do not feel too slow. Pricing is decent, but I do expect a little bit more for the price of 65 euros that us Europeans have to pay on Max Gaming. You can also buy it from their website for 60 bucks, but I do not know how much shipping is.
Oh, by the way, the cable is sort of okay. It's not the most flexible cable, but it's somewhat decent. It's quite thick though. One flaw in my opinion is that there is no upward angle on the stress relief at all.
So there are fairly major flaws with the mouse, and these kind of seem like they should have been found during the design phase or the testing phase. It's kind of irritating that you consumers and as reviewers end up doing the production testing on these products. Depending on the way you grip the mouse, the design flaw might not affect you and the click latency might not be an issue if you don't play those click timing heavy games. But as somebody who reviews these products, it's my job to figure out the issues and tell them to the manufacturers so they can improve their products, and then inform you guys with these issues to help with your buying decisions. I do want to give applause for Ninjutso for making another unique product, but they do seem to have always issues with these early batches. For example, I had slight issues with the Origin 1 example that I got, but it's now becoming one of my favorite wireless ergos. The Katana also has a lot of potential. I think the design flaw is here to stay, but they need to fix the drivers and hopefully they can also make the Katana wireless. That's pretty much it. Check this video here if you want my thoughts on the Origin 1X, and if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you enjoy my content, hit the subscribe button, and see you in the next one.